Hello and welcome to everyone who is joining us for today's Reactor session. Today's session is about create Power Apps in Teams and using Microsoft Lists, and we're delighted to be welcoming back Ove Bristrand, who has a wealth of experience over 35 years in information and communications technology. And this session will last just about 60 minutes. That's including any questions that you have throughout as well. So there is a Q&A window that you can pop any questions into. We'll make sure they're answered by the end of the session. We will also be recording this session, which will go live onto the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel towards the end of the week. And that link to the on-demand video will be posted onto the relevant meetup pages. So I'll hand over to Ove to get us started with today.
Thank you, Emma. And Emma will maybe send out some surveys, and you can see the event code that you're supposed to use when you enter into the survey. It's 12709. That's the code for today. Let me move on to the next slide. Like Emma said, my name is Ove Bristrand. I've been working in the ICT business for more than 35 years, and for now 10 years working with the Microsoft Cloud Solution. I do, together with my colleagues at NetIntegrate, work with Power Apps and Power Automate to solve business needs for customers. I'm also an active member of the partner organization IMCP Sweden for the Swedish partners. I'm also active in a number of communities, and you will hear it that my background comes from the SharePoint community, where everybody is saying sharing is caring, and that's what I'm supposed to do today. The vision of my work is to make business create solutions for staff to work independent of time, place, and choice of device, summarized in our vision and slogan: online all the time, anywhere with anything. You can find me on LinkedIn. I have a sleeping Twitter account, so don't try to reach me there. It's better if you reach me on LinkedIn. So before I start talking about today's session, I would like to tell you a little bit things about what I do when I'm not working. I like to be in the outdoors. The picture on in the middle on the bottom part is when I'm hiking in Sweden in the summertime, beautiful lake. I also like to bike. I'm doing some bike trips locally in Stockholm, where I'm located. I like to do some cooking outside, and like you will see also on this session, I am a passionate skier and love downhill skiing. So that is one of the things that I do when I'm not working. So today's session will be about creating Power Apps in Teams using Microsoft Lists. I say it's a good combination since it's make more use of Microsoft 365 that most of the customers are already working with. It's good for most of the customers. But what you need to think is that create one app for one business task if you want to work with the lists. I will show you that this is good for most of the customers, because most of the customers, even if they're a small company or if they're a larger company, they have business tasks that needs to be digitized, and you can do that fairly easy with Microsoft Lists and enter the data into the lists with Power Apps And now, since a couple of months, we can embed Power Apps where we have Power Apps in Teams. And Teams, this is a live event on Teams. Teams is our day now during the pandemic, even more. Teams was a very good part of my day before the pandemic, but now I seem to have a lot of Teams meetings, like most of you as well. It's a nice form of a list. Make a list that solves your need and create a Power App that you tab in Teams. The good thing is that now Teams is something that we're all working with, we're all familiar with now. We know the interface, and to work with creating lists and creating Power Apps in Teams, it's fairly easy to get adoption from the users if you work with this as the solution. Lists, they're stored in SharePoint. Lists is another new thing that came out during the last year, 2020. I will introduce you a bit about lists and what you can do with lists. And in the end, you can, of course, ask some questions in the Q&A if you want to see what's if you have more questions around making use of Microsoft Lists, other than using it as a data source for Power Apps. So Teams, the central source for collaboration. It's included in Microsoft 365. So is Lists, and if you work with Power Apps connected to Lists, if you use the data source Microsoft Lists, you have all of the things you need in the Microsoft 365 license. Of course, if you want to have other data sources, you would require another license of Power Apps, other than the one that's being included in Microsoft 365. What I will discuss here is that you can actually use this Power Apps in Teams for process and routine management. Process and routines that you work with in the business, they can be managed in Power Apps with Lists as a data source. So talking about Lists now, Lists is an improved layout of SharePoint Lists. SharePoint Lists has been around for a long time. The first time I came across Microsoft SharePoint Lists was in 2006. That was my entry to SharePoint. SharePoint was then 5 years old, and now it's matured. And I would say also that Microsoft Teams, where you store your files, is really SharePoint. Teams has really saved the life of SharePoint, and now with Microsoft Lists, it's even better prepared for something that today's businesses needs. I know that I may upset somebody who's working really with databases and saying that Microsoft Lists is a database-like. It's a data source, but one of the things you need to know is that it's good for lists up to 5,000 items. Of course, you can use lists with a larger, with more items than 5,000, but 5,000 is a fairly common rule when you work with SharePoint lists and now the Microsoft lists as well. Since there is a limitation that you can only view 5,000 items. And if you're working with documents in folders, one folder is an item hiding many files. You can, of course, have more than 5,000 files and folders in a SharePoint library, but in a Microsoft list that's based off of SharePoint, you have to create a lot of row views so that you can limit the number of list items being shown in a view to 5,000. It's fairly easy to set up a list. I hope that the small demo that I will show in the end works, so that I can show you how easy it is to set up a list and how easy it is to set up and use the list for as a data source in a Power App. Of course, with all of the features that come out with Microsoft 365, there are some limitations. There are also some limitations, of course, with Microsoft lists. The limitations, like I said, was you can have 5,000 per view. You can have, it's possible. I don't think I've ever seen that many items in a SharePoint list, but you can actually have 30 million items in a SharePoint list. But you would have to create a lot of row views to really show the items that you want with a 5,000 item view limit. When you're working with Power Apps, there is an initial limit. When you set up a Power App, connecting that to a data source, the initial limit is 500 items that can be shown in the Power App. That can be changed all up to 2,000. I hope I will be able to show you the way to do that. But of course, there are limits with lists, and if you see these limits, most of one business task can be solved with Microsoft lists. But if you have several tasks, if you have larger projects, larger larger lists with more items, maybe Microsoft lists is not the right tool for you. But as you can see, there are a lot of business scenarios where you can actually use the Microsoft lists. So lists in Microsoft Teams, like I said, it's fairly easy. You create the list, you create the app from the list. The sections that you really add, the tables, the table you add from as a data source, and the columns that are in the SharePoint lists are being populated into the Power App. And then you configure the Power App to make it even more suitable for the users to work on, so that you can gain some good adoptions on this. Power Apps in Teams, like I said, Power Apps in Teams was introduced a couple of months ago. So now you can actually work directly in Teams, creating Power Apps and showing the Power Apps in Teams, connecting them to Teams, to channels, adding them as tabs, and do all of your work during the day and not without having to leave Microsoft Teams. There are some templates to start with when you want to work with Teams and Power Apps. I will show you that, and you do all of the development directly in Teams. When you talk about development and Microsoft Teams and Power Apps, Microsoft likes to push that creating Power Apps as a no-code solution. I would rephrase that and say that's a no-coding solution. You can actually create code without writing the code, because the code is populated for you when you create it. And then, of course, if you have pro developers, they can enhance the development that you're doing in the Power Apps connected into Microsoft Teams. Some of there are, of course, some limitations in Teams. I hope that some of them will move away fairly soon. These are some of the limitations that I have encountered. There may be more. If there are more, you can probably write more of them in the chat later on. But one of the basic things that I saw when I was creating my my demos for today was that some columns are not available, like the image, the barcode, the camera, and the microphone. Those columns from the SharePoint list, from the Microsoft list, are not available now. I know that there has been talks about it, but no real commitments from Microsoft. There are, of course, some list view limitations, like with the 5,000 item limitation, and I said with the initial limitation of 500 items in a Power App. And you can configure that and add and make it all up to 2,000 items in a view. There are some control limitations, like address input, camera, microphone, mixed reality. There may even be some more, like I said, but these are some of the ones that I found that I would like to see some solution on in the future. So how do you do this? When you want to create a list, you go to your web browser, you enter office.com, and then from the waffle menu, you click on the tile lists. You can see the picture of the tile. If you don't see lists in your waffle menu right now, expand so that you see all of the apps, and then you can tag it to the waffle menu so that you always see Microsoft lists. So what you do is you create a list. You can choose from a number of you can choose a source, and it can be a blank list, it can be from Excel, it can even be from an existing SharePoint list. And then, of course, there are some templates now being available. You see them here: issue tracking, employee onboarding, and so on. When you have chosen the source for the list, you choose where the list will be stored. By default, it will be stored in your OneDrive, unless you say you want to store it in SharePoint with a shared list. If you're making a list that you want to connect to as a data source to Power Apps, and you want more than yourself to be using it, I would recommend that you add it to a SharePoint shared list. And since we're working with teams today, of course, the best way would be to add the list into the team that you want to add this Power App to. And then you add some of the columns. I will show you this in my demo later on, but these are the steps that you should go through. Now you created the lists. Now you need to create the Power App, and the Power App is created from Microsoft Teams. You choose Power Apps, and to do that, you on the left side where you have chat, where you have calendar, and so on, you and Teams, you click on the three dots and choose Power Apps from there. You can then also tag Power Apps so that you always have it in your Teams menu. You start creating a new Power App in Teams. You select the team that you want this Power App to be shown to. You name the app, and then you start with an empty app with no data source. So now you need to go to add data, and in the search box you write SharePoint, and you select SharePoint as your database, as your data source, and then your Power App will be created with the columns from the list that you created. You get the columns onto the Power App. So that's really the process for adding the Microsoft list to the SharePoint site, to the team site. You want to create the Power App, and now it's time to look into some of the demos that I will be showing you today. One of the demos, I created a list for ski areas, for some of the ski areas where I've skied. Like I said in the beginning, I am a passionate skier. I created a Power App from a channel in Teams. I added the list as a tab to Teams to show some of the limitations currently found, and that was really the thing that I did. So hopefully, keep your fingers crossed. I keep mine. We will be able to look into the list that I created. Now I'm in Microsoft Lists. So if I click Lists, I see that I have a list in my test tenant. If you want to do this, I strongly recommend you to create a separate tenant for testing. You should not test in production. And now I can show you this that I talked about with the Microsoft lists, how you get to the lists. You're in Microsoft 365 in the web browser. I click the waffle menu or the app launcher, and you see I already have lists here. That is because I have pinned it to the launcher. If you don't have it, then you hit all apps, and you have lists here, and then you say pin from to launcher if you don't see it in the launcher. But then you come to Microsoft Lists. And like I said, I have created a list. We will go into that one. I can show you how to create the list. It's easy. Like I said, go to new list. You choose the source if you want to create a blank list, or if you want to create from Excel or from an existing list or from the templates. But let's work with a blank list. I say a name here. I say Microsoft Reactor. I choose a color. I can choose an icon. As of today, I have not found a way to get more colors and more icons in this. So we say it's a rocket. And here you see save to my lists. If you stop there and create it as a my lists, it will show up in your OneDrive. If you instead click on my lists, and you open up and you see all of the sites that are in your tenant, all of the SharePoint sites. So we can actually go with one of these ones. We can go with going for gold. You get the option of showing site navigation. This is in the the SharePoint site, if you want to show it in the site navigation there. So you click create. It will bring you to the list. Now you see that you have a column named title. You can edit that one. You can rename it. You can only rename the first column. If you add some more columns, you can add columns from, and you see here they are the usual type of columns you have in a SharePoint list. So you can have a single line of text, multiple line of text, location, number, and so on. Location was really one of the things that I would like to show. Unfortunately, location does not work well with power-ups at the moment. There are some workarounds, but I don't really like to show workarounds. Like I said, image was another column. So if you add some columns to this, then you can you really can add data then to. So if you want to add data, either you add data from entering here, webinar, lists as data source for Power Apps in Teams. There you can add a column, and we can say it's a date and time column. So we say date, and we say it. We don't include time, so we just use it like that. You can say if it's like if it include time, and you can under more options say if it's a required field or if it's not the required field. So now I can go into this one, and I can add the date. So when I go to the date there, we see that we can add today's date. So like that. So so now you see that I've added this. Then you are in now you're in Microsoft lists. If you're gonna want to go back to your lists, you see that you have the Microsoft Reactor that I just created and the ski downhill that I created earlier on. So let's go into the list ski downhill, and you can see that the list is here. It's title, it's the name of the ski area, it's the city, it's the country, it's a number of lifts and a number of slopes, and it's a link to the website. And on some of them I added picture. I wanted to use the picture, like I said, as an image column in the Power App, but there's a limitation now, so you cannot use that. So let's go back to the Power App in Teams. So I was a little bit ahead of myself there when I prepared this session. So we can choose like this. Let's see, let's end that, close that one down. So if I go to files here, you see that Power Apps is now gone. If you want to get Power Apps back, you click on the three dots there and you go to Power Apps. Then now you have Power Apps here. You can now, if you want to work with Power Apps more in Teams, of course, you pin it. So here you see the Power Apps being embedded into Teams. Now we have a possibility of creating an app. We have also a couple of apps already available that you can use. These are some of the templates. So now let's go into the ski downhill that I created earlier on. So when I click now on the link there to the app, you actually get into the configuration mode of the app. Let's hope today that there's been some issues with Power Apps being slow. Now you can see here that I have my list here, my Power App here. I have my data source. So you can see if you want to go to the data source, you see that it's in our test tenant. It's in a site called also Cloud Academy. It's a SharePoint list, and it's connected to with my user ID in our test tenant. Like I said, when you add, you go to add, and then you write SharePoint, and then you can add the SharePoint list. But I've already prepared this. And when I added this list, it created a view that was really not looking like this. So I changed the name of it to my Oves skiing experience. I changed some colors on the background. Of course, you can do a whole lot more on the UI to make it more likable for the users, so you get adoption fairly easy with this. So now I've created the app. I've done some modification to the screen. This is really where I would say that most of the customers can really most of the companies can really work with this without doing any coding. It's not really, like I said, no code solution. It's a no coding solution since you don't have to write the code, but there's a lot of code in the background that created this, and there are some things that a pro developer or a more experienced developer can do. If you want to work with the Power App in Teams and you do some modifications, of course, you need to save the modifications. You can then preview it, and then you publish it to the teams. So you can really do some modifications without interfering with the end users that are working with it. All up until you say publish to teams. So let's see this about that was the Power Up, yeah. So I go back now to Teams. I go to my team. I go to the team Also Cloud Academy. I usually end up in posts, and you have files and you have wiki. And here you have the app was really added to. So if I click on this one, I get into the Power App that you already saw. So here I can choose some of the ski areas where I've skied. I was actually living in New Mexico for a year when I was an exchange student. So I've skied in a couple of places. This is a fairly nice place in the southern part of New Mexico. It's in a Indian reservation, so it's actually called Ski Apache. You see that you have the number of lifts, the number of slopes, you have the country, you have the city, and I can have some attachments here. And then I can choose to either go to these and either update them, or I could create a new record. So if I create a new record, I write this in, and I say our slope in Stockholm. That's where I've skied. So for country, this is a choice list. So I choose Sweden. There's one left there, and if I'm not mistaken, I think they actually have jumped in 4 slopes there. And I could add the website later on, but now I've added this, I can attach a file, and I save it, and it's being added to my list. I said there were some limitations in the Power Apps at the moment, so I want to show you that if you want to work with lists as your data source and not go with the Power App, you could really add the tab from the list tab from the list in the SharePoint site. So here I've added the list, and here you can see that I even get the picture. I can get some column formats being done with colors on the countries and so on. How do you add such a Microsoft list to your team? Is that you click on add a tab, and you go to SharePoint, And here you see you have recommended, you have pages, you have lists, and you have document libraries. Here I said it was on the Also Cloud Academy. If I choose any SharePoint site, I need to write in the site name of the site. So if we go ahead, we could really, you can see how this is actually being done. But if you want to add the SharePoint list or anything from SharePoint, you click on the plus icon, and then you go to adding lists and document libraries to this. So let's get back to the presentation. This was a small part of my demo today. So now I went from the beginning. So let's move down into the, I was ready with the demo. So now let's see some of the business cases that you can actually work with for creating lists as the data source and then showing the lists in Power Apps. Purchase request. This was a list that we created for one of our customers. The manager wanted to have one data source where he could see all of the purchase requests and see if he approved or declined the request. He was really having a huge problem with his staff sending purchase requests in mails, catching him in the hallway in the office saying, I need to purchase this, and he would not remember that. So we created a list in SharePoint and created a Power App that the staff could use for creating their purchase requests. Asset list is another fairly good use of creating lists and editing the lists with Power Apps, of course, then in Teams. Vacation request is another business scenario that is fantastically solved with lists in and Power Apps in Microsoft Teams. Case list. We had a customer who was having some field workers that were was needing to a SharePoint list, add quality issues and issues around the worker safety, and they had to do this from a SharePoint web page. So they had to go to the to a computer, and that was usually a couple of 100 meters away from where they were working in the field. So what we did was creating a Power App that was actually using the SharePoint list as a data source. And like I said, in 2006, I had my first experience with SharePoint lists. The first list I did was for opportunities. I know there may be some of you attendees who are working more with dynamics. Of course, if you want to have a larger opportunity management, I would urge you to use dynamics instead. But for most of smaller businesses, an opportunity list in Microsoft lists being shown in Microsoft Teams as a Power App is a fairly good use of time and it's easy to start with this, and you don't have to do a lot of coding. Of course, then you can add some more features and some more, but start small and then make it more automatic. Like I said, this was the case with the case list that we created. So if a manager was assigned to one of the cases, or for quality or for worker safety, they would get a notification from actually created from a flow in Power Automate. So the lists are the data source, and then you can automate these processes. So this was really what I had for today's session. Join, of course, the Microsoft Reactor Stockholm community if you're not really if you haven't signed up at Meetup, do that. There's a Twitter account, MSFT Reactor, and like Emma said, there's a YouTube channel where this recording will be shown, and there's of course an email. And when the pandemic is over, you can actually meet the Microsoft Reactor at the epicenter office in Stockholm, Sweden. And now I open up to Q&As. I'm not sure if I can see the Q&As, Emma.
Yes, so a couple of questions have come through into the published section. So I'm happy to read them out if you like. So a question from Anonymous, why is this useful for a company?
Why it's useful for a company? For most of the companies, it's useful as you create the list fairly easy, fairly fast. You create the Power App and you embed it into into a tool that most of the users are now well aware of, Microsoft Teams. So you get it fast. You solve a business task, and then you use something that's that the users are familiar with, Microsoft Teams, and where they're already spending most of their day. So that would be the answer to that question. I hope that's a good answer. Otherwise, they can come back and rephrase.
Perfect, thank you. Next question, can you share a SharePoint list to Teams from another 365 SharePoint list?
If I understand the question correctly, if from another SharePoint site, of course you can share it in the same tenant, but you cannot share a SharePoint list or a Microsoft list to Teams from another tenant. So it has to be in your tenant.
Great, okay. Next question is Ian from London, who's asked, is Power Apps or is the list aware of the Teams context, or is it basically just using Teams as a browser? Can you reference a Teams user in the Power App or generate a Teams message?
Good, very good question. It's actually embedded into Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams is really in this scenario working as a web browser where you actually browse the Power App and the Microsoft list. There are possibilities of interacting with the members of the team. Like I said, that with the case list that we were using for one of our customers, you could actually have, if a manager was assigned a case, they could get an adaptive card being sent to them in their Microsoft Teams. So there are some possibilities of doing that, but then you need to add a flow in Power Automate to do that.
Great, thank you. And final question we have for now is from PG. Have you used QR codes within Power Apps? Would be a very useful addition for asset lists.
Say that question again. I need to see.
Have you used QR codes within Power Apps?
QR codes in Power Apps? No, I haven't used it, and I'm fairly sure. Maybe some of the attendees can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that it is possible to do it now in the present scenario with Power Apps in Microsoft Teams and with lists. QR codes would be more like an image, and like I said, barcodes is also something that is not available. So I'm fairly sure the answer is no, you cannot at the moment, but hopefully sometime further down the line, Microsoft will add that to this solution.
Great. We've just had another question come through. Is it possible to use adaptive cards within Power Apps?
I'm really not. I'm not 100% sure. So I would say that I would have to pass on that question at the moment, but I need to be 100% sure if I say yes to that. But that's something that I can definitely look into, and if anybody would like to, I can check it out, and I can create a post on LinkedIn around that.
Perfect. That's all the questions we have through right now, but we do still have a few minutes left. So if there are any more questions at all from attendees, please feel free to send them through. I have also just sent a link to the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. And as I mentioned, the video from today will be uploaded to that channel. You'll be able to see that hopefully by the end of this week. And I've also posted the survey link into the Q&A. So we really love your feedback from today's session. Shouldn't take more than 2 minutes. So the link is in the Q&A there.
Good, and like you said, it's being uploaded in the end of this week to the YouTube channel. There are some very good sessions that has been recorded in the past and that are available on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. I have watched whole bunch of them, and there's also one from a previous session I did with creating Power Apps quickly that you can look into. I think I did it in November, December time frame. So if you want to look into that one and some of the other ones that are available on the YouTube channel, I strongly recommend you to browse through the list of videos available there.
Great. And just on a final note, are we able to possibly share your LinkedIn page, Ove, in the Q&A with attendees for today?
Yes, you can do that. Should I? Oh yeah, I can do it. I can get the link and share my link to.
Brilliant. Just for follow-up questions, and of
yes.
course, if there's any follow-up questions, they can be posted to the meetup. But if you'd like to go directly to Ove, then we can arrange that through LinkedIn.
So let's see now. I hope this one is shown to everybody. Can you see it, Emma?
I'm not seeing it. Oh, yes, I see it there in the chat. So let me just post that into the Q&A.
Okay.
Yeah. We've a couple more questions that are coming through, so we still have a few more minutes. So
yeah.
So we've just had one come through from Jerry. Ove, I can imagine remote field engineers might post information on a job into a Power App. Can this data then be easily accessed by a central administrator at head office outside of Teams using Excel or other?
Yes, that's one of the good things with working with SharePoint lists is that you can actually you can download all of the items or the items that are being shown in the view into Excel and then work on them there if they want to. Yeah. I also saw there a question, is there a learning path for creating Power Apps in Teams or for that matter, Microsoft Lists in Teams? I haven't seen any yet. I will check that as well, and if I find any, I can add it to my LinkedIn and make a post there. And if there are some learning paths, I can enter the link to those as well.
Great. I don't see any more questions coming through as of yet. But Ove, it's been great to have you. Thank you again for delivering another session with us. I hope we can do some more again in the near future. Yep. And also thank you to everyone who's attended today and for sharing your questions with us. It's always great to go through those towards the end of the session. So thank you for attending and for engaging, and really hope to see everyone again at the next Reactor session. So all of those events are listed on our meetup pages, and you can see what's coming up next in our calendar.
Okay, Emma, and I'm also sending my thank you to the attendees for and if you want to reach out to me, you know now where to find me on LinkedIn.
Great. Okay, so we will wrap it up there.
Yep.
Thank you again, and hope to see you all again soon.